We've all seen those iconic Idaho images that fill the travel brochures, the ones that are decidedly Idaho. But what about the places that aren't so readily accessible, that require some effort on our part to get to, that demand a willingness to wander far from the crowds and the cares of the everyday world? From the green cedars up north to the frigid landscapes in the east, Idaho is ripe with color and with character. There's good reason to take the trail less traveled. Truth is, all who wander are not necessarily lost. Perhaps they're seeking something more, be it solitude, adventure, or simply traveling someplace new. It's in our pursuit of wonder that we find ourselves taking that first step off the beaten path.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore and Bettis family legacy of building the great state of Idaho, by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
These charming rock formations are a product of tiny limestone pebbles called oolites that fuse together. It's the result of a 6-million-year-old freshwater lake that geologists call Lake Idaho. Seems everywhere you look these days you can find places that inspire and befuddle. Hi, I'm Bruce Reichert, and welcome to Outdoor Idaho. You know, I think it's safe to say that Idaho joined the Union of States early because people were willing to get off the beaten path in search of gold, pelts, timber, farmland, and they were all desperate for a better life. Today, there's not quite that desperation to get off the beaten path and into the wild. Today, it has more to do with relaxation or the desire to explore, or maybe to preserve one's sanity.
Nature tends to keep us focused in the present moment. That is so healthy, and that is a philosophy that we've known for centuries is a key to mental health. It's not focusing on the future, which is usually worrying, or focus on the past, which keeps us depressed. So staying in the present, which nature allows us to do and encourages us to do, is truly very, very good.
Have you ever looked at something so darn pretty you had to wonder if it was real? Right out of a postcard or a movie set? The views from a yellow raft floating down the Bruno River at the bottom of this impenetrable canyon will inspire such wondrous considerations.
I have guided a little bit all over the world, and man, I'd come back here on the Bruno and it's like, this really is one of the most amazing river canyons in the world. It holds up to anywhere. I do have to say my favorite rivers in Idaho are all the desert rivers.
When you float the river, you get to see the change from the top to the bottom, and you see everything in between, and that's pretty unique.
The Bruno River flows north through the Owyhee Canyonlands, formed by the Jarbidge River out of the mountains in northern Nevada. Spring runoff transformed into a boater's playground.
You've got the flowing walls, fast current, there's not a lot of eddies, kind of boily water, brown water. The Bruno is the French word for brown water.
About 40 miles of the Bruno is federally protected as Wild River. And wild it is, weaving its way 1,000 feet below the canyon rim. Despite being a desert river and a desert canyon, the banks of the Bruno are anything but barren.
It's its own kind of desert jungle down here. There's, thick junipers and poison ivy that's 8 feet tall, and wild rose. and all the classic shrubs too. You know, there's serviceberry and chokecherry and syringa, and when the chokecherries are blooming, it's, you know, smells sweet.
Mysteries abound among the basalt walls and rhyolite spires, with massive caves hidden deep in the canyon.
It just feels extra special. When you're here, you know that it took extra effort to come down here, and you're somewhere that you're not going to get to do all the time, and it's just a stunning gorge. It's amazing geology, geography, the riverbed, the rapids. I think the most common reaction from folks coming down the river is kind of more of a silent awe. You know, it's a place that promotes some solitude and quietness, and people are just looking around going, am I really here? I didn't know there could be somewhere quite like this.
As the canyon widens, opening into pastures and dirt roads, the reality of real life begins to seep back in. A reality that for a few days was set aside, allowing the magic of a picture-perfect river canyon to capture the imagination. In another era, this unbeaten path was very much beaten. Idaho's Curlew National Grassland.
Most of what is now the grassland were privately owned at one time and were farmed and ranched. And this part of the world, this part of the state, did see the same effects that we saw in Oklahoma and some of the other, Kansas and the other Dust Bowl states. It hit here too.
Years ago, this land had a ranch every 160 acres. But thanks to partnerships between federal and state agencies, along with the cooperation of private landowners, it's now comprised of 47,000 acres of public land.
Most of the restoration has been in the form of management changes, not hitting the land as hard as it once was. So over the course of the last 50 or 60, 70 years, that grassland has come back. Restoration of creeks in this system is very active. Reshaping the slope of the banks. Stream restoration in arid landscapes is the key to land health and restoration. It defines southeastern Idaho, the agricultural side of things, the wildlife side of things. This is it. This is Southeast Idaho to me.
Now, if the words Curlew National Grassland are new to your ears, you wouldn't be alone. The Curlew is the only designated grassland in Idaho, and just one of 20 in the entire nation.
It's interesting that not a lot of people know about it. The landscape itself is different than a lot of public lands administered by the Forest Service, where you typically think of higher elevation. The grassland itself is in the foothills of the lower valleys.
Comprised largely of sagebrush. And, as you can hear, home to lots and lots of birds.
And it's pretty remarkable. The diversity of species and the numbers of them. You don't expect to see shorebirds out in the middle of a grassland or in the middle of a sagebrush habitat, but where there's water, there's wildlife.
And where there's wildlife, there's something worth watching.
And that's the beautiful thing about the Curlew, is provides a lot of opportunities to explore. Take your binoculars, your bird book, your plant identification book, and see what it's all about. Having that feel of solitude, you can find that just about anywhere you go in the Curlew. It's not used a ton by the public, and so it provides a lot of opportunities to explore it.
In the far north of our state, a granite spire juts from the ground like a monument to the gods, a natural beacon.
There's this big rock, and you take this massive hike up the hill, and then there's just this big feature that sticks up and that you can see from a lot of different places.
It's such an iconic feature for our region. Anybody who travels up here, they can see it from a distance. It's been carved out by 3 glaciers on each of its 3 different sides, the east, the west, and the north sides, that gives it that chimney appearance.
It's obvious as you drive up the road and you see Chimney Rock, it's kind of like, oh, what is that thing? You kind of get to the top of it, and it's got some lore within the climbing community.
It does take some commitment to get here. Like it's a 6.5 mile walk in, and it's a pretty mellow trail to start, and then it kind of climbs up and starts getting up into steeper terrain. Then you come up and you kind of pop up and see the feature at different points, which is always neat. It's like, oh, that's where I'm going, and it's just a reminder of why you're taking the walk.
The ability to get to a summit only with ropes is rare. There's a lot of mountains that you climb where you can walk around the backside and get to the top. The fact that you have to use ropes to access it and have a certain level of knowledge holds people back from being able to get to the top, and I think that keeps it unique.
Unique and hard.
It's a challenge. It's exposed. You never know kind of like where you're going, and you're taking gear out and kind of moving around, and so it's definitely manageable, but you're climbing this big feature that like you're just kind of hanging out in the middle of nowhere.
It requires total focus. It's such a privilege to be able to be up here and do this and not have to worry about the responsibilities we have in everyday life. So my focus is on, when I'm climbing, is on the climbing itself.
As it should be. The climb to the top of Chimney Rock is 250 feet up and requires multiple stops or pitches along the way, making it a long day of climbing for even experienced folks.
Oh my, it's hard to put it into words. We have this beautiful environment, this alpine environment that's so unique, and that we have in the Idaho Selkirks, with the granite slabs and the views in all directions. I never get tired of it. It's incredibly beautiful.
You just get up and then you have this wide 360 view of kind of the whole area. It's stunning, and it's just kind of like, whoa, cool, I did this. You want to give a high five, and it's like, hey, cool, look what we've done.
Beautiful. Seeing the Pend Oreille, and you can see Priest Lake on the other side, and then the Selkirk Crest all the way up to Canada is just a gorgeous section of terrain.
But there's only so much time for admiration.
I think anytime you climb a big feature where there's a significant rappel that comes down, it's like you're not done yet. And so you can't spend too much time celebrating, because the down is just as important as going up.
A big rock, that's really all it is. But for those who summit this pile of granite, it's so much more than that.
As far as Chimney Rock goes, this has always been the iconic alpine climb, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the ultimate what climbing is in the inland Northwest. This is, for lack of a better word, the pinnacle of what climbing is about.
In the winter in Island Park, you need a sled, the motor kind, for going off the beaten path.
Where we are right now is on the Henry's Fork of the Snake River, just below Big Springs. The lower area is beautiful because you don't have any wind to deal with, and the trails are always good.
Henry's Fork of the Snake River is dressed in soft white powder around elevation 6,000. snow-coated trees stand straight along the ribs of the river, and the riding is easy.
We have hundreds of miles of groom trails, which is always nice, especially when you're older and you got this ailment and that ailment and this back injury and that. All the miles of groom trails are awesome.
But climb higher, above 8,000 feet, and those layers of soft white turn crusty, strained by severe conditions and fierce exposure, allowing humans limited time to wonder.
You can get frostbite very easy. I got frostbite riding home the other night on my cheeks. So I have brand new skin on my cheeks. Temperature drops 20 degrees when you get up on top, easily, always.
The top is Two Top, a clearing on a ridgeline that looks like the top of the world with views of the Tetons, Yellowstone, and Montana on a clear day. But clear is hard to come by.
There's always a little bit of fog when you get up on there, but if the sun comes out, there's nothing like it.
Two Top is a weather-beaten point of such high exposure its few trees are at the mercy of Mother Nature on her worst day, which is nearly every day in the winter.
This time of year we get one storm after another, and a lot of times it's very socked in. But today we got a chance, we had some really pretty sun for about an hour, and it was awesome.
What stands sentry up here doesn't grow straight like down below. It's crooked, leaning, crippled by the crush of one snowstorm after another. Wind all the time, and fog between flakes.
There are our ghost trees. You only find them on the tops, you know, because that's where the wind and the snow accumulates the most and makes those beautiful, beautiful trees. Everyone has a different shape, and every one of them could be a relative of Casper, the friendly ghost, because they all take on that form of being a ghost. And when you're up there, there's nothing quite like those. So many different shapes and so many different icicles coming off one side, and the light that can shine through. It's our #1 attraction in the wintertime by far. Everybody wants to see our ghost trees and see how beautiful it is. I feel very fortunate to be able to live here.
When I'm in the Cedar Grove, I feel much smaller, and it puts things in context.
The Hobo Cedar Grove is not simply a roadside attraction.
I get to just appreciate the sounds and smells and the subtle breeze and the ferns when I'm down here. Yeah, it gives a different perspective.
If you give it time, the trees will turn you inwards, evoking undiscovered emotions and conjuring up feelings of wonder.
It's pretty magical. To me, the sense of beauty is beyond the visual. It's more of an experience to be in here and be surrounded by things that are ancient and timeless. It has a very peaceful and protected feeling to it, which is very appealing to get away from the busyness of everyday life.
The 240-acre grove is a secret garden of 500-year-old western red cedars. Preserved initially because of their tendency to fall apart on log drives, making them poor candidates for clear cuts. And preserved now by the U.S. Forest Service, with a mission to safeguard rare botanical habitats.
I hope that when people see the Grove, they are inspired to care for their public lands and protect special places like this, because they're really unique to what we have in this part of the country.
The trees in this grove can live more than 1,000 years. Even at 250 years old, they can be up to 160 feet tall and 8 feet in diameter.
Cedars are a climax species, which means that they're shade tolerant and they can basically outcompete other trees in this setting. The reason that this pocket has survived so long is that it is in this wetter, cooler situation. By nature of cedar trees, they're really rot resistant and disease resistant. So, without some natural disturbance such as wind throw or fire, they could stay in perpetuity.
And in our unpredictable and impermanent lives, unchanging and perpetually standing trees can serve as a big sigh of relief.
It's very peaceful. I don't know how else to describe it. This is a special place for solitude and reflection.
The Sawtooth Mountains, a range that needs no introduction. It's perhaps the most photographed region of the state. When the Sawtooth Wilderness boundaries were drawn in 1972, the Forest Service excluded a mining claim, the Greenback Mine, and this jeep road to it. The mine eventually proved unproductive, but mountain bikers can still ride several miles into this canyon on the old road, since it's not an official wilderness. And that's something Hannah Fake likes to do. But once she parks her bike and prepares to climb, things get a lot harder. That's because there's not much of a path, and it's pretty much straight up.
First time I came up here, I remember stopping about every 10 feet. Like, this is so steep, this is so hard.
As the lead naturalist at the Redfish Lake Visitor Center, Hannah has seen the best that the Sawtooth has to offer. Part of her job is to suggest places where people can visit. But this is not one of those places.
But it is steep and loose and rocky and makes this place inaccessible to a lot of people, which is part of the reason why it's so quiet and beautiful and there's no one else up here. This place is special. I've been here more than I've been to most places. In the Sawtooth, I've had multiple trips here. Coming up, I love getting off trail. It's a hanging valley, so that's why that trail is so steep. And when you have hanging valleys, it collects water generally in lakes up above and then just drops down in a falls. It's all year round pouring water, which is pretty cool up here. And you can really get pretty close to it and get some really nice views on that trail up. And if you continue just a little bit further, you can find the lakes that feed it.
Just about every lake in the Sawtooth Range is postcard perfect. And the lakes above the falls are no exception.
I think almost always in the Sawtooth, the little higher you get, the better reward it is. And the further you go out, the less people you find. There's the 3 different lakes, and each one gets a little smaller as you go up, and you get a little better view looking out across the valley and the mountains. Once you get off trail, you hardly see anyone. Just a quick scramble up from the trail and you're at these beautiful lakes where no one's around. And off trail is definitely not for everyone, but that's some of my favorite places to go, to hike to a peak or hike up a valley and know that you are the only person in that entire valley or drainage for the day or even the night is pretty special.
And in this wild world where sometimes it seems every spot is taken, every trail trodden, it's good to remember that there are still places to step off the beaten path.
Funding for Outdoor Idaho is made possible by the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation, committed to fulfilling the Moore and Bettis family legacy of building the great state of Idaho, by the Friends of Idaho Public Television, by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. To find more information about these shows, visit us at idahoptv.org.